When you lose someone you love, they never really leave you. He'll always be in your heart.
I don't want him in my heart. I want him here with me.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
And today we're covering the Disney 2012 Tim Burton movie, Frankenweenie.
Highly recommended by Sylvian 14.
Yes.
This movie has become an incredibly underrated film, not only for Spooktober, but as a Tim Burton project too. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, so catch some future podcasts and little pause videos.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us, taking time to share our videos, commenting, and so much more. As always, we really appreciate you guys.
Yes.
So for those of you not familiar, and that's going to be hard to believe, Frankenweenie is a 2012 American Gothic, 3D, stop-motion, animated, sci-fi, horror, comedy film.
That's a lot.
Directed by Tim Burton and written by John August. And it had a nice selection of stars who VA'd at the time, which we will discuss with you in a little bit. And it was actually a co-production between Walt Disney Pictures and Tim Burton Productions.
Yes.
And it's a feature-length remake of Disney and Burton's 1984 short film of the same name. And is also both a parody of and homage to the 1931 Frankenstein, based on Mary Shelley's 1818 book, and the modern Prometheus.
Wow. So, first, I didn't even know that it was originally a live-action short film. And considering how well done this is, not even seeing the original live-action version, maybe this is something Disney could do, but they haven't done since this film. Is like if they have live-action movies that are older, remake them into animated films. I think that could really be lucrative.
That would be great. But Disney had a problem with the live action. So quickly, let's go over the live action before we get into the 2012.
Right.
It had a nice all-star cast as well. Shelley Duvall, Daniel Stern, and Barrett Oliver. And it ran only 29 minutes, though.
So yeah, something like you see on TV.
It had a budget of $1 million. So back in 1984, that was a lot. Here's the problem. Disney fired Burton after the film was completed. The studio claimed that he'd been wasting company resources, and they felt the film was not suitable for the targeted young audiences.
Really?
And it was originally planned to be released alongside the summer release of The Jungle Book, but its release was rescheduled with the Christmas release of Pinocchio, which makes no sense. It should have come out in yet again another October film.
Okay.
And the film was subsequently shelved. And so after his success with later films, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman, Scissorhands, they decided to give it a home video release in '92.
Oh no. So now they saw all of his work was profitable and the success of his other film, they said, okay, you can come back now.
Yeah.
Because he does have other films with Disney long after. So that explains why he's had more projects with them later on.
And you can see on screen, we're showing you some of the black and white pictures from the live action movie, and you see that they line up
perfectly
with the animated one.
You're right. They just extend the animated one to be a theatrical length type film. Because when you watch it, I think what's really great about it is that it doesn't feel like it's dragging on.
No.
The short film's 20-some minutes, right? 24 or 29?
The short one, 29 minutes.
29 minutes. And this is probably 87. So it's double the length, but yet it still felt like a complete film. It still was fun. It didn't feel like they were dragging anything out.
True. And this one wasn't considered a success at the time. It had a budget of $39 million and made $81.5 million at the box office. So as far as they were concerned, it wasn't. But it made back what it took to produce it and more. So, in our books, guys, that's a success. For those of you who are familiar with the movie, you know that the boy is named Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And he loses his bull terrier, Sparky, and he wants to resurrect him or reanimate him, whichever one you decide.
Right.
And he does it without the knowledge of his parents or his friends. And then after he actually is successful,
I think, before we get into it, I think maybe part of people's hesitancy to watch is because of the premise and how it starts off, because you get to see Victor's life, his friendship with Sparky. Sparky's a little off sometimes, but you know he loves his home.
Yeah.
And when the tragedy strikes, it probably was a little unsettling for both maybe some kids and some adults who knows, maybe experienced that, and that may have played a part in people being hesitant to watch it. But I think the good part is that, one, you know it's fictional. Two, it's a great parody of Frankenstein. And three, even funnier, he's successful in bringing him back. And it comes with these little other things he has to do. And Sparky acts like almost like nothing happened. He's just like, he's been asleep because they're like, hi!
And at first, you're kind of wondering when you watch it, at least I was like, oh, how is this movie going to be? Is this going to be
a little
creepy?
bit.
I didn't know when I first watched it, but it ended up being heartwarming. Unbelievably heartwarming.
Yeah.
And I also love the shout outs to the Universal Picture
Oh my
monsters.
gosh, that was one of the best
Brilliantly
things.
done.
Yes.
And the names, the pun names were fantastic.
Yes. I think
seeing some of those come up now as well.
I think when that came up towards the end of the film, when they had I guess you could say their final battle in a way, it reminded me a little bit of Paranorman with all the chaos erupting. But we had explained that there were other kids that found that Victor brought Sparky back. Mm-hmm. And one of them was supposed to be, Igor wanted to bring back his fish. It wasn't even his, it's just a dead one they happen to have at a pet shop. Like, why don't you throw it out? He wanted to bring that back.
That's crazy.
Right. And he wanted to bring...
he wasn't a victim, he was a lunatic.
Right. He wanted to bring that back. And it worked temporarily, but then it was gone. And these other kids wanted in on it to win science fair. Like, you really are desperate for this.
Yeah, and they were digging up things.
It wasn't even half of them weren't even their own pets. Yes. They were just getting them. One, I think, was somebody's pet. Everything else was just a pet someone had that decided would be a specimen. Yeah. And when they had them all come back and they were wreaking havoc, and it was Frankenstein gone amok, it was every pet that was brought back was a shout out to a Universal monster, and the turtle ended up being Godzilla.
Yes. And each of the kids that had them matched up with whatever monster.
Right.
It was brilliant.
Yes.
And then one of the things that was really sweet is one of your favorite parts. When the other kids weren't working, they weren't coming back like Sparky. He was reanimated. He was happy. He was the same personality he was before. Mm-hmm. He still loved Victor. It didn't work the same way. And then he was given an explanation as to why. Right,
from Mr. What was it, Rice Krispie?
Yes.
Mr. Rice Krispie. He told him that, he asked him, when you did the project the first time, did you put all your heart in it? He said, yes, I really loved it. And then about the second time, I did it for someone else. And then when you really love something, it all shows when you finish. But if you just do it for show, then it doesn't represent the passion you put into it. So basically, because he loved Sparky so much and wanted him back, it brought him back just as he was before. But because the other ones just wanted to win the science fair and get famous and thought it was something cool or something, he didn't put his heart into it because they just wanted it for sure, else they would tell everybody he brought the dog back. So I thought that was a pretty great scene to have in there, because that can be applied to anything anybody works on. When you're passionate about it, you love it, you want people to enjoy it as much as you, it turns out great. But if you're just doing it because you have something against somebody, or it's just because you want to do it to get fame or to get the money, and it's like, just do it, get it done, get the monetary value, then it doesn't come out right because you didn't put any effort into it. You just wanted to get something quick. And that was reflected in here.
Very true. Now, interestingly, Tim Burton signed with Disney to direct 2 films in 3D.
Oh my gosh.
Alice in Wonderland and
oh my gosh,
Frankenweenie. And that dated back in 2005. They did not actually hire him on until 2009 to actually begin the movie. And like the original short film he did, this version was shot in black and white, and it was brilliant, and it was perfect.
Yes, it was like the Munsters.
And many of the animators who worked on here and the crew were from Corpse Bride. from
Oh,
2005.
wow.
And he borrowed heavily from his design for the character Family Dog, the TV series.
I think I remember that as one of those more obscure type ones.
Yeah, it was actually created by Brad Bird for CBS. It was an animated sitcom that came out in '87.
Okay.
And he borrowed heavily from that dog for Sparky.
Okay,
I
makes
guess
sense.
he had permission, so
Right.
he did it. But this film, I did not expect it to be endearing. I didn't expect to really love it. I did not, honestly. I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
But you can see why the ones like Sylvian who actually love this movie do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's just probably something that was done not only ahead of its time, but people were still getting used to Burton as well.
True. Because his style is still just the same as it was in Corpse Bride and his other works.
Mm-hmm.
And what you kind of like is that he really stuck with the entire theme of it being both the homage and sort of poking fun at the monster movies themselves. The entire thing was just made out of that theme of the classic monster films. The names, the pets coming to life as the monsters, the neighborhood he lived in, the name, everything.
Everything.
And even down to having it all in black and white was a great homage, like I said, like the Munsters. And
the old horror movies from Universal.
Right. And it's not just done to be, something shocking or gory or anything, because most, when they like to do the horror movie, they like to go that route and make it super dark. But they somehow took it and made it fun. And you knew that he really loved Sparky. Sparky loved him. And he even got his little doggy girlfriend, which is hilarious. The poodle next door, which I guess wasn't fazed by him just being suddenly back. And it was fun when he had the little lightning come out of the bolts.
Said, who cares?
When he got to her, the little lightning came out of his bolts and it hit her, and you think, oh gosh, did he do something? And when she got up, she had a white streak in the giant hair.
Right, a puppet style. This movie was brilliant. And it makes me think of two things as you're talking. One, when Supernatural, yes, my favorite series of all time from TV, was on, they did an episode that called back to Universal Pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And the same way, they were smart enough to film the entire episode in black and white.
Right.
And it would not have worked the same if they had done it in color.
Right.
It was absolutely brilliant, and they called out to the Universal Monsters.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Tim Burton was doing as well, the same as Supernatural did.
Right.
You could only appreciate it in black and white. Putting it in color, it would have had a whole different feel. You probably would have felt more like Monster House when you watched it.
Probably.
But watching it in black and white and having that ambiance and that same feel of the old horror movies that your grandparents and great-grandparents watched and you've gotten to see, you were just lulled into this sense of this is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was very smart to get casts from some of the old movies as well.
Yes.
Which we'll get to shortly. But this movie was a joy to watch, and I was just so excited and pleasantly surprised and pleased that it turned out to be as good as it was.
Yes. And
or as good as it is.
Right. And I think my last addition is that I do like that his parents were not written in a trope way where they don't pay attention or they're narcissistic or they don't listen, pay attention, nothing. They didn't do that this time. Because when they found out about Sparky, yes, of course, they freaked out. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he went through all this to bring him back is like he really loved this dog this much. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, we're going to discuss this later, but we will help you find him. They didn't just punish him right then and there, get angry or anything. Just like, well, you love him this much, we'll at least help you with this and figure out what to do later. I do like that they genuinely loved him and the dog enough to go and help him.
And my last thing is when they had them chasing him like in the old Frankenstein movies.
Yes, with the mob.
What happened with Sparky.
Yes.
And Sparky, unlike Frankenstein, he was a hero and the people knew it.
Yes.
In Frankenstein, he was a hero, but nobody knew it but the girl he saved.
Right.
But in here, Burton made sure the way the story was told that everyone would know he was the hero.
Right.
So let's get to the spectacular cast they had. You had Charlie Tahan as Victor Frankenstein, a young scientist who brings his best friend Sparky back to life. Mm-hmm. You had Catherine O'Hara as several people: Susan Frankenstein, his mom, Weird Girl, Victor's eccentric classmate, and the gym teacher, who replaces Mr. Rice Krispie,
Oh my
as
god.
a science teacher.
Those are the weird class. Those kids were weird.
And you have Martin Short as Edward Frankenstein, his dad, Mr. Burgermeister. And shout out to the Christmas movies because he was the grumpy mayor of New Holland.
Yes, Burgermeister, Burger.
Yes. And Nassau, Victor's classmate, who was the owner of Colossus the hamster. And Nassau was a flathead inspired by Frankenstein's monster, and his voice and face resembled Boris Karloff. And I was telling you that too.
Yes, he says that Boris Karloff as a kid.
We had Martin Landau as Mr. Rice Krispie, the eccentric and wise science teacher. And Martin Landau was famous from the 60s all the way through the 90s for not only doing horror movies, but spy movies. He was on Mission Impossible. And I know about him because my older family members love watching this show. And I became familiar with him through watching reruns with them or movies with them. Space 1999, which no one even plays anymore.
Right.
But he is Hollywood royalty.
Yes.
And so it was great that he got him there. The character himself was inspired by none other than Vincent Price.
Yes.
He had Atticus Schaefer's Edward Igor, his hunchback classmate. And Winona Ryder is Elsa Van Helsing.
Oh my God!
Victor's kind classmate, next door neighbor, who had the little girl doggy.
Yes.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
That's her name. And she was also, remember, Burgermeister's niece.
Yes.
He had Robert Capron as Bob, Victor's overweight classmate.
Oh my
and
God.
Toshiaki's science fair partner.
Yes.
He had James Hiroyuki Lau as Toshiaki, Victor's competitive classmate. And he got former owner of Shelley the Turtle, so he actually did own the turtle.
Right. Okay. Okay. So there was two, and I mean he had Godzilla. I mean, come on.
And he had Conchata Ferrell as Bob's mom, a stereotypical suburban housewife. You had your favorite, your one and only, most favorite voice actor of all time,
Tom Kenny,
as New Holland townsfolk.
Yes.
He was the ones that spoke. He was all of them.
Yeah. All like Tom Kenny.
And last, you had Christopher Lee, who had worked with Tim Burton on 5 earlier films, making an appearance via the inclusion of a live-action clip from his 1958 film Dracula.
Oh my God! And so all the monster alumni too.
I'm very familiar with Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and all these people because of our Nana.
Right.
I mean, she loved those movies, and I watched a lot of them with her. I wish you had gotten an opportunity to watch some of them too. When I got older, I began to appreciate all the knowledge I had, all the fun times I had, and that was the reason I would end up watching these movies.
Right.
Because I was spending time with family members, so I'm glad I did.
Right.
So this movie is just a gem.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen it, you have got to watch it. But first, if you have seen Frankenweenie, either the 2012 animated film, or if you've been privileged to watch the 1984 sci-fi black and white live action, let us know in the comments. Did you like it? Did it really match up for you? Did you find the 2012 version animated more fun? And if you know where we can see it, tell us in the comments below. And if you haven't seen Frankenweenie, you have got to see it. Thank you, Sylveon. Thank you, Playmaker.
Yes.
Because of you two, we actually finally watched this movie.
Yes.
And I cannot wait to watch it every year now.
Yes.
So we have to buy it. I don't want to sit and see it by luck or chance or because...
Or ads running on TV. Because that's how we saw. We watched it on Freeform. And the only downside was there were a lot of ads in between the breaks.
Very true.
So, if you haven't subscribed for updates, weekly reviews for your anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
And thank you so much for taking time out of your Spooktober and busy day to share some joy with this wonderful new favorite film of ours. As always,
you are special. Thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a toon-tastic day.
Peace.
I need your help. I asked him first. My problem bigger.
Yeah, he's right.